Hi everybody, I wanted to chat with y'all about some on-the-water applications about shallow, medium, and deep rod angles when Euro nymphing, and potentially some how-tos on approaching a run. As we talk about run approach or river approach, I like to keep in mind the depths we think fish are going to be at, obviously the holding lies that we think they're going to be at, and then from there, what do we do with our equipment to rig ourselves for the best success, but also how do we manage depth and bite detection. Hi everybody, before we hop on the water to talk about shallow, medium, deep, I want to talk about rigging a little bit. So here I have some 0.18 Pierre Semp in green level to my fly line. It's a big T Euro nymphing fly line down, and then past that's backing obviously on that end. The bottom of my Pierre Semp end, so on the terminal end where my tippet's going to go, I have a little micro loop. There's a bunch of different ways you can do this. You can tie a surgeon's knot. You can tie a non-slip loop knot. You can tie a stopper knot. There's all sorts of things you can have. I go with a non-slip loop knot. Stops me from eating into my equipment, so I don't have to replace my leader quite as often. Also, really easy to tie a clinch knot off of. One thing we want to think about when we're talking shallow, medium, deep presentations, if we intend on fishing a lot of shallow, we want to go with heavier tippet. The thing I like to think about through all of my presentations, the thicker the material and the more total surface area in the water, the higher my flies are going to ride in the column. Surface tension is going to hold your flies up, and that's basically the bottom line of everything we're going to talk about today. So as we set this up, I'm here on the sequoia, so tippet size is inconsequential to fish eating. So I'm going to go with some 5X here, some Trout Hunter 5X. The way that I attach this, just put it through the loop. I just spin it between my fingers and then tie an improved clinch knot with that. So back through my little loop, then through my big loop. Wet it, cinch it down. There we go. Clip our little tag end. So now I have loop still attached to my sighter. I like to measure out roughly to the center of my chest for a 3 mil bead. So this is our total distance here. I don't know, I'm like 5'9", so however far that is. And then I'll come to this back shoulder for a 3.5. When I tie my rigs, I always start with a little more tippet, just because you can always cut back, right? So it's more of a pain in the butt for me to add more than it is for me to cut back. So I'll err on the side of more as opposed to less. Now, I'm gonna go into my trusty fly box here. Go with a 3.5 millimeter beaded egg, some Solardini egg chenille. I'm gonna hook that on there with an improved clinch knot. So we're gonna stick that through there. Wet it, cinch it, cut it. Also, one thing I like to keep in mind when I'm making my rigs here is I want to remember that I'm going to cut off some stuff there. There's going to be some amount of waste. That's okay, just as long as we have that pinned into our rig there. And see, we actually ended up a little shorter than I would have liked to, but that's okay. At least for a 3.5. Alrighty. Now, let's hop on the water. Shallow, medium, deep rod angles. The basic premise of this is the lower my sighter is towards the water, the slower my things are going to sink. Here's a good example. If I float the sighter, laying it all on the water, it's going to take the longest time to hit bottom. If the cast is the same, if I raise my rod tip up just a little, bit, we're going to sink a little bit quicker, but still fairly slow. So that was shallow. Now we're like medium. And then we'll go deep. which is going to be kind of straight vertical, and it's going to tick bottom there. We're already on bottom. So basically all of this is to be said, we're going to use these different rod angles to fish through different pieces of water, or the same piece of water with different, while attacking different parts of the column. So for example, I don't know if you guys can see those fish out in front of that rock. Oh no. The fish out in front of that rock there, that dark slanted rock, but they're there. There's one right in front of it that's fairly deep, and I want to make a short drift to his face. So we'll start high, end high, 1/8 it. That was an example of a short drift with the deep attack angle. So basically my drift has not got a lot of space to progress, and so I have to start high with my rod tip, meaning it's going to sink quicker, and then pull it out of there because it's going to hit that rock cushion there. Okay, well, this guy's going to be a bit of a menace and let all of his friends know what's going on here. It's okay, though. So something to keep in mind when when we would change our rod angles is depending on how long a certain complex is. For example, you'll see me floating the cider or dry dropping when squirrely little critter. When there's longer, flatter water, as opposed to when there's shorter little complexes, shorter pockets, it's going to be more important that you land more vertically and connected. Sometimes you don't have enough room but to do anything but land connected, sink quickly, and then pull it out of there before your complex is ended. So here's a flatter piece of water, but if you look on top of that rock this guy came in front of, if we lead him too much with a high rod angle, it's going to sink beneath him, or a deep angle, it's going to sink beneath him. Whereas we can land it on his head with a deep angle and kind of put it in his mouth. So there he is. Show him off to you in just a moment. Greasy little stalker here. Where do you guys go? Well, anyways, you're up there. I'm just going to go ahead and let him go. And out he goes. Okay, so now the same deal. That's going to go to that guy. One of the worst things you can do, especially when sight fishing to fish, is to fish under a fish. So hopefully what this does is it allows you to control a little better your depth.